Welcome to This Week in Rauchbier, the world's most important, long-running, and awarded show dedicated to smoked beer. I'm your host, John Hall. Bill and Hagen are on the brew deck this week, taking some time to tend to their lagers, so it's just me solo in the host chair this week. And we're brought to you by All About Beer. Check out allaboutbeer.com, follow us on social media, and listen to our other podcasts. And to support independent journalism in the beer space, please visit patreon.com/allaboutbeer. And don't forget to keep up with This Week in Rauchbier on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. To look and drink your very best, please support this show by visiting our merch page at allaboutbeer.com/merch. There, you can get a This Week in Rauchbier glass, a Camp Rauchbier mug, shirts, and a really comfortable All About Beer golf hat. Every order supports the work that we do, so thank you for helping out. Bart Watson will be here in a moment, but first, it is time for our Rauchbier brewer panel, and we're joined by three distinguished brewing professionals who are all celebrating smoke. Spencer Longhurst grew up in the Canadian Rockies. He spent a lifetime in the hospitality industry before getting into professional brewing a dozen years ago. He's a graduate of the American Brewers Guild Brewing Sciences and Engineering program. He spent time brewing and living in Canada, the UK, Australia, and the United States, and he's currently the head brewer at Barrique Brewing and Blending in Nashville, Tennessee, where they focus on barrel-aged beers, including open fermented mixed culture beer, continental lager, English ales, and of course, smoked beers. Will Gomez is the brewer of the Brew Bridge in Owensboro, Kentucky. He's been brewing professionally since it opened in 2020. It's a small 7-barrel brew pub / barbecue establishment and the first brewery in Owensboro since Prohibition. He is also a 2022 Scholarship Award recipient of the Michael James Jackson Foundation and just completed the WBA Concise course in brewing technology through the Siebel Institute. And Logan Ackerley. He is the head brewer at Wallenpaupack Brewing Company, an award-winning brewery located in the northern Poconos of Pennsylvania. Entering the industry in 2015, he has worked his way through bartending, sales, cellar work, and eventually on to production. He joined Wallenpaupack when they opened in 2017 after short stints at Abandon Brewing in Penn Yan, New York, Old Saratoga Brewery in Saratoga Springs, New York, and since accepting the role of head brewer in 2018, his beer has received both national and international recognition, including a GABF Silver Medal for English Pale Mild and the world's best cream ale at the 2022 World Beer Awards. He says he loves brewing and consuming Rauch beer, enjoys experimenting with smoked ingredients other than malt, such as peaches, pumpkins, and honey. Gentlemen, it's an honor for all of you to be here. Spencer, let's start with you. What is the best style of beer and why is it Rauch beer?
The best style of beer is Rauch beer because it's smoky and delicious.
Logan, what do you love most about Rauch beer?
I love everything smoked. So that smoke character that you can get from all different types of wood, can't beat it.
And Will, what do you say to the very few folks in the world who still think that Rauch beer isn't for them?
Keep trying it until you like it.
All right, so let's talk about the very clear renaissance that Rauch beer is having right now. Logan and Spencer, I am continuously amazed at how much Rauch beer your two individual breweries turn out. Will, I think you're on your second Rauch beer since you opened?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so you're going to catch up to these guys eventually. But Logan, Spencer, I want to hear from you guys first, and then we're going to get into Will because he's been doing some fun things with his beers. Is there consumer demand for this? Like, do you have people who come in and ask like what your latest Rauch is in the same way that they do IPAs? That's a jump ball for either of you. Spencer.
Yeah, I can't really say that we have people coming in and asking what the new one is.
Yeah.
But it actually, every time we release a new one, it sells pretty well. We have made the mistake of rebrewing them before, and the second batch didn't go over as well. But yeah, the first one always flies well. People are interested if they give it a chance.
I feel like all evidence to the contrary when you did your smoked Hefeweizen as a naked appeal for my love and admiration with Hall & Oates. last time I was at the brewery, I saw it in the bargain bin, and I was just wounded by it.
Yeah.
What was it about that beer that deserves such unfair treatment?
That one was a little weird. I think people just didn't. I think people probably didn't know what it was. Not too often you see smoked wheat beers, Weizen beers, and then we added that one. Used a ton of oats in that one. So it was fermented with Hefeweizen yeast, but it was all oats instead of wheat. And I think it was just a little too weird for people. It was a beautiful beer.
It was,
and it held up really well. As long as it was around. But yeah, it lingered a little bit.
Do you think it would have sold better had you actually put my likeness on the label?
I mean, of course. Should have done a podcast around it or something.
Should have done an entire podcast around it. We missed that week in Rauchbier.
Yeah.
We were so packed up with other news that we had to push you to the following week, and I apologize for that. And then it just never got rescheduled. Spencer, though, in a serious way, though, I know the last time I visited a couple of years ago, you had like 3 or 4 Rauchbiers on tap, which I was delighted by. Is that normal for you all?
That's not typical. No, we try and keep one. We've only got 8 draft lines, so we try and keep one at all times. But just juggling the limited tanks that we have, that's a little bit hard sometimes. But
so, how do you work it out on your brew schedule then?
I try and brew more Rauchbier than IPA. That's goal 1 when I write the production schedule.
Yeah. How's that working for the bottom line?
It's working great. Rauchbier is way cheaper to make than IPA.
What's consumer response though? I mean, obviously if you're having it continuously, like, are there people who come in just looking for that? Is it part of a larger rotation? Are they mixing it up when they're drinking pints? Like, what's the...
Yeah, it's not often that someone will come in and exclusively drink Rauchbier. They'll usually try 2 or 3 of our offerings, and Rauchbier is usually the one they finish with. But there are some people that come in exclusively asking for it, and when we don't have one, they're like, "Oh, last time I was here, there was a smoked beer. It was really good. Do you have that?" I'm like, "Unfortunately, not right now, but check back in a couple weeks or something."
It's not a beer that actually pairs well with barbecue. I know people think, smoke with smoke, and I don't always agree with that. But do you think Nashville being known for, good pits and good smoke with food, that there is an interest on behalf of either local drinkers or the tourists that are coming through for those flavors?
Yeah, I think because, the whole South in general has this affinity for smoked meats and smoked food, that people are more willing to try it. For sure. Yeah.
And so, Will, in your bio, you mentioned, being a brewery and a barbecue joint. So is there a correlation? You've done 2 now. And if I'm remembering correctly from the Facebook group, your first one was just a couple months ago and you were all psyched about it. Did the folks who were coming in for the food, were they excited when they got to taste your Rauchbier?
No. So this area, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, we're the first breweries since Prohibition, so people are still getting adjusted to just having craft beer brewed locally in general.
Yeah.
So they're more used to drinking, blondes and light lagers and stuff. So I'm slowly introducing different styles that they might have not heard of before, like Rauchbier.
Yeah.
So that's my goal, is to incrementally add more as time goes on. So,
I mean, not to cast aspersions on your drinking clientele, but I imagine in November when you put out a 2.5% Graditsky, that is clear, that could look like a lightish lager or a blonde ale. There was probably some reconciliation that drinkers had to do between their eyes and their mouth.
Correct. Yeah. The people who did drink it, we've had mixed results with it. Either people really, really love it or really hate it, and I don't like to talk to those people. So,
well, what was the most brutal comment you got?
As far as one, I haven't gotten any like in-person comments. I know like Untapped's not a real reliable source, but we've been
No.
getting a whole bunch of 1 stars because it's a smoke beer. So
Logan and Spencer, can you relate to low scores on the bottle cap site?
Yeah, sorry.
I'll go for it.
I was gonna say I can relate to the bad comment thing because on Untapped, we had one guy say, and you said we could say these words. So
yeah.
he said, "I would rather shit in my hands and clap than drink this again." I don't believe that.
Bottles and cans, just clap your hands. Logan, can you top that one?
Yeah. Sorry, that was me. No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Spencer,
sorry,
can you top
said
that
Spencer
one?
And then
I'm sorry. Yeah.
My bad.
I'm all over the place these days. Spencer, what was do you remember any sort of brutal comment you got?
No, surprisingly, we've actually gotten really good feedback on the bottle cap site about some of the Rauch beers, especially they're mostly served. We don't really send any of those to distribution. They kind of just stay in house, and yeah, they're all like over 4 on Untapped. So
that's pretty great.
I'll take that any day.
Yeah. All right. So Will, you started off with the Graditsky that was mixed results. I imagine you did get some people though who were fairly excited by it or interested in the promise of the style.
Oh yeah. We've had a few people that were really excited when they tried it. There's another brewer here in Kentucky, he's in Henderson, and he absolutely loved it. Bought a couple of 4-packs, as soon as he tried it on tap.
So for your second Rauch beer, I mean, Graditskys are, I mean, they're not easy to make, but they're sort of a classic style. And then you got a little esoteric with your second one.
Yeah.
So tell us about
it. So I've been reading Historical Brewing Techniques by Lars Garshol, and one of the styles in that book was, and I might be butchering this name, but the Strohsal, which is a alderwood smoked beer that has juniper in it. So I've never tasted it. I haven't seen it here in the States. I'm sure breweries here in the States brew it. I don't know which ones, but that's something that I really wanted to, get my hands into. Just harvested some Eastern red cedar branches from my backyard, and got some alderwood smoked malt from Sugar Creek. So shout out to Caleb. And so we mashed it in a old Green River bourbon barrel and added some whole cone Centennial hops, pitched Lutric Vike, and I think it's already done fermenting. Have to check later on, but the flavor is quite interesting, honestly. It's nothing, I haven't tasted anything like it. So
I'm excited by that.
Yeah.
Logan, you've been messing around with bourbon barrels in the past.
Yeah. So probably 2 years ago, when we brewed our Grodzisky, actually, we just had 2 leftover bourbon barrels that if we didn't use them, they were going to dry up. So halfway through the brew day, we decided to try to ferment some Grodzisky in 2 of those barrels. And we actually just brought it back, and we'll be bringing that beer to Camp Rauchbier around CBC. So,
ooh, we're going to talk about Camp Rauchbier in just a minute. But so what was now that you've done this twice now, what did you learn with using bourbon barrels the first time versus the second time?
This time we monitored the fermentation a lot more. The first time, because it was a last minute thing, we kind of just threw, a makeshift blow off into the barrels because we didn't have, any kind of bung that would allow the pressure to release. So this time we basically, built up a whole blow off system, stacked the barrels so they're out of the way, and put them on pallets so they're a little easier to move. in and out of the cooler because we used a lager yeast. So we were trying to keep it cold. So we actually monitored through some temperature probes in through the bung and monitored it the entire time, just to get a little more exact. And I think it came out a little cleaner than the previous batch. I assume that's just because we were watching the fermentation.
Spencer, you're obviously surrounded by barrels. It is the big thrust of the brewery.
Yep.
What do you find that wood does for Rauchbier?
I think for all of our kind of barrel lagers, it definitely provides a little bit of a tannin structure, and it definitely is. We're getting a little, like, not much oak pickup, but a little bit that's kind of like rounding out the beer. It's definitely a lot of work and a pain in the ass, but we're making it work.
Have you found that there's certain barrels that work better than others, or are you typically just using neutral?
We're using neutral X wine barrels for the most part. For all the Rauchbiers have gone through neutral wine barrels, so we haven't really experimented on the Rauchbier side with whiskey or bourbon barrels or any sort of other spirit or wine barrels.
Yeah. I feel like for a style that is so traditionally rooted in tradition, that we're just starting to see some experimentation happen. Obviously messing around with bourbon barrels. You have some breweries that are doing smoked saisons and smoked IPAs and smoked sours, and sort of running the gamut with various styles. Where is your creativity in the back of your mind leading you with Rauchbier these days? Will, as you start to think about perhaps your third Rauchbier, jumping from traditional to a little bit more of experimental, where's your mind wandering for future Rauch days?
Definitely would like to try a Rauchbier with roasted or chocolate malt. So maybe like a Schwartz beer, Rauchbier type, or maybe a smoked porter, something like that. That I think the smoke would complement the roasted toasty character of the malt.
Logan, what about you? Where's your creativity in the back of your mind taking you these days?
The latest thing I've been thinking about, which we could never scale up, but we have a small 1-barrel pilot system. So at home, every once in a while, I smoke just pans of water and then freeze it for ice cubes to put into whiskey. So I'm curious if we could smoke a bunch of water, use it as our strike, sparge all of our water for the brew. No smoke malt, just see how much smoke actually comes through from the water.
Okay.
Again, nothing I could scale up or put in cans, but just something interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to send me a can of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Spencer, what about you? Where are you thinking creativity wise?
Yeah, for the most part, we've been kind of hitting the classic Rauchbier styles, Märzen, Helles, Grodziskie. We haven't really experimented with any malt or wheat smoke with anything other than beechwood or oak.
Yeah.
We've done one with pecan, as I say that I haven't. So yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of stepping out of some of those classic styles and getting a little bit more experimental with it as we move forward. Our whole business model is we don't really brew the same beer twice. We have brought some favorites back, but mostly everything's a one-off, especially on the Rauchbier side.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to hitting a few more of those like classic Bamberg or German styles, and then branching out and doing some more experimentation with different smoked woods or styles that you don't typically see smoked malt in.
Logan, in your bio, you mentioned the some of the adjuncts that you've been using, peaches, honey, pumpkins. What do you feel those bring to as far as smoke levels and drinkability?
Yeah, so I was actually, I think like out of those three, the peaches were the most successful. And it gave a lot more smoke than I expected to. We did a Belgian triple with cherrywood smoked peaches. And it was probably, I think we did 60 pounds of peaches cut in half, smoked for an hour and a half too. And then just blended them up and threw them in a 20 barrel batch. But the amount of smoke that came through, I was really surprised with that. And it just, the fruit takes on a very interesting flavor when it's smoked. It clings to it a little better than some meats or malt. So it just adds like a nice round, kind of sweet, because it wasn't cold smoked, it was hot smoked. So
Yeah.
you're getting a little bit of caramelization in the fruit, in the sugars in the fruit. So it just adds like a really nice sweetness and rounds everything out.
Have another bargain bin idea for you. Because I've been smoking peaches in the summer when they're fresh, and then pureeing them with just a little bit of jalapeno. And I wonder how that would play in like a pale ale, like a West Coast pale.
That sounds pretty fantastic.
Okay, there you go. Coming soon.
Yeah,
coming soon to the discount rack near you in the northern Poconos.
We'll make a double batch for that.
Perfect. I feel like that could do well with food, actually.
It honestly might in the summer.
Yeah, that's let me know when it gets on the brew schedule so I can be there for your retirement party. Spencer, the Craft Brewers Conference is coming up in May. All of the brewers are coming into town, suppliers, pretty much a lot of people associated with the brewing industry, as well as Taylor Swift is going to be in town for it's going to be exciting. And I'm both excited and terrified about my flight down. The last time that the Craft Brewers Conference was in Nashville, it was all on this United flight that I took from Newark. It was all bachelorette parties and brewers, and nobody was sober by the time the plane landed 2.5 hours later. I don't know what to expect, except for a boozy sing along on the way down, which I'm super psyched about. But
yeah, you better brush up on the Taylor Swift lyrics.
Oh, I don't need any. You have to. I mean, I'm all set. I celebrate the entire catalog. Okay. If anybody has a spare ticket, let me know. If so, now I got all distracted. Brewing and Blending is going to be the place to be for the majority of the conference, because every night of the conference week, you guys have something different going on. You want to run us through the lineup?
Yeah, for sure. So we're kind of kicking things off on the Sunday, May 7th. To kind of kick off CBC, we're doing
T Swift Hangover Day. Yeah.
T Swizzy Hangover Day. We're celebrating all bottom fermented lager beer that day. So we're bringing in a bunch of guest beers from our friends all over the country, and people that make killer lagers. So we're going to be setting up like a little mobile bar in the back of our barrel warehouse, and pouring some of the finest lager produced in America. And then the following day, Monday, we're celebrating West Coast IPA, Westies with our besties. Same kind of thing. We'll have that mobile bar set up with 16 different West Coast IPAs, a lot of them brewed exclusively for the conference. Crosby Hops has been a huge major sponsor of that one, and they've donated a bunch of hops to all the breweries that are participating.
Cool. Then skip to Wednesday.
And then Wednesday is obviously the most important one. Sorry, Tuesday.
No. I skipped to Wednesday, and then we're going to go to Tuesday.
Yeah, so Wednesday we're wrapping up CBC with our mixed culture mixer. Same kind of format, bringing in a bunch of guest beers that aren't available typically in the Nashville market from some of the top producers of wild and mixed culture beer around the country.
That's
Yeah, that's
exciting.
basically
but,
it. Those are
but
the three major
Tuesday,
events. Oh, yeah,
Tuesday
Tuesday we're
is what
hosting
we're all excited for.
Yeah, Tuesday we're hosting Camp Rauchbier.
It's a
In
real thing,
collaboration with
kids.
All
It's
About
a
Beer
real
magazine.
thing. Yeah.
Yep. So we've got 16 different Rauch beers lined up coming in from breweries all over the country, and we're really excited about it.
It's going to be great. It's going to be
It's gonna
great.
be awesome.
We're going to do a special edition Camp Rauchbier podcast from there. M. Souter, co-host of the All About Beer podcast, is going to be doing a Pints and Panels pop-up shop, so you can get all of your cool artwork from her. You guys have a food truck that's coming in.
Yeah, Cabin Attic. They do some really awesome smash burgers, and they're talking about doing some. I saw the first kind of proof of their menu. They're talking about doing some pairings for Rauch beer as well, as in addition to their smash burgers. So I'm really excited to see what they come up with.
I'm so excited by this. I feel like this is brewers are going to be excited by all of the things that you have lined up, because I think all of these events are what brewers like to drink. And so I'm one, excited about that, but two, that you guys are dedicating an entire night to Rauch beer. I'm just super stoked on. And I should point out, and this is important to it's not just brewers who listen to the show, but if any listeners are in the greater Nashville area on that May 9th, or any day of that week, you can also go to Breek and drink the beers. This is not a badge only, attendee only kind of thing. This is open to the general public.
Correct. Yeah, we'll be open from noon each day that week, with kind of the events kicking off around 4 or 5.
What time's the last call?
We're talking about 10 right now, but
all right.
If there's people here, we're not going to like usher them out.
I feel like I could do 10 solid hours of Rauch beer.
Yeah, I kind of expect to get, that major pop of people, when the conference lets out around 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Will, you're going to join us?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be there every day.
Yes.
I made sure to book the closest hotel to Breek. So
nice. That's you're gonna save so much money on Ubers.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna get the shortest, most expensive Uber ride.
Yeah, I think it's like a 5-minute walk too. So I mean, even if I don't get an Uber,
I can see the Knights Inn from our front steps. So
yeah, that's it right there.
That's exciting. That's pretty great. Logan, what are you most looking forward to when it comes to Camp Rauchbier?
I just want to see what everybody else has going on. There aren't too many breweries around here, and even fewer that do Rauch beer. So I don't get to have, small batch craft Rauch beer. So really interested to see what everybody's bringing from all over the country.
I'm excited by that.
Lots of Grodzitsky.
Perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
You said that there's a whole bunch of Grodzitskis, right?
Yeah, I think we've got 6 out of 17.
That's amazing.
Sorry.
Oh,
yeah, but
fine.
yours is a little bit different, right? How many of those are bourbon barrel aged?
1.
Yeah.
Fair enough. We'll take
it. Dare to be different, Logan.
All right. I'll take it.
Yeah, we're doing the unofficial, official Grotzoff.
There's got to be a trophy. We're gonna go to some thrift shop, and we're gonna get the biggest, most gaudiest trophy we can find, and award a Grodzitsky trophy. Maybe. I don't know. I don't want people, or just participation trophies for everybody. Maybe. I think that's probably a better way to go. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. All right. This is typically on the other show, but since I have you all here, I want to ask you the Green Door question.
I know what's coming.
Yeah. So on Drink Beer, Think Beer, which is a lesser known podcast that I host, I've been asking folks about the Green Door question, which is, if you could walk through a green door on our plane of existence and be at any bar or brewery anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? Who would you want to be drinking, or who would you want to be drinking with? And what Rauch beer would you like to be drinking? And Spencer, I'm going to start with you.
Ooh.
And it doesn't have to be Rauch beer, but you should probably stay on brand for this show.
Yeah, I guess if we're going Rauchbier, I'm sitting at Schlankala in Bamberg, and I'm drinking their Helles by the liter. And I guess I'm doing it with you, John.
Perfect. I'll be there in September. I can't wait. Logan, same question to you.
Yeah, wasn't prepared for that either.
You've been on this show. No, not this show, but you've been on the other one.
Well, I didn't know it was going to be asked on this show. So
okay, yeah.
I should know this. But I think
let me rephrase it then, right? Because I know everybody's going to say Schlenkerla. Let me rephrase this question.
Thanks for letting me go first.
Oh no, of course. See, this is why we don't rehearse. If you could be at your favorite dive bar drinking a Rauchbier, what's your favorite dive bar and what Rauchbier would you like to be drinking?
Favorite dive bar. It doesn't exist anymore, but it would be the Blooming Grove Tavern, which is right around here by us in Pennsylvania. And I would choose Schlenkerla, but to change it up, I think I'd do Noble Beasts smoked Helles.
Nice.
Just a really nice, light, smoky treat.
All right, Will, to you, favorite dive bar and what Rauchbier would you like to drink in it? And then I'm coming back to you, Spencer.
So they're not open anymore. They closed down, unfortunately, a few years back. But there was this beer bar in Buffalo, New York, called the Blue Monk. And yeah, I'd like to drink there.
I remember Blue Monk, yeah.
Yep. Honestly, and I'm not saying this just because Spencer's here, but I really liked his smoked Märzen. So I'll drink a smoked Märzen. And you said who would I drink it with?
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, Michael Jackson. Honestly, really liked his stuff. His books are awesome. I actually have a commissioned painting of him in my office. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And I think I've watched The Beer Hunter, the whole series, about 5 times. So yeah, I'd probably drink it with him.
Nice. Spencer, favorite dive bar? You can still drink Schlenkerla. You can mix it up if you want, but what's the dive bar you want to drink Rauch in?
I'm going to go back to my hometown of Banff, Alberta, Canada, Tommy's Neighborhood Pub, which has been an establishment there for 30 or 40 years. And I'm drinking smoke beer with my old man.
Nice. Well, guys, thanks for doing this. Thanks for being on this week's show and for sharing your love of Rauch, your commitment to the style, and your unwavering support to all of us drinkers who just want a little ham water in our glass. So looking forward to seeing you all at Camp Rauchbier on May 9th at Breek Brewing and Blending in Nashville, Tennessee. Come one, come all, hang out all night, listen to a live broadcast of the podcast. And yeah, thanks again, Logan, Will, Spencer. I really appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Sean.
As he does every week, Bart Watson, the chief economist of the Brewers Association, is here to count the smoke numbers and to give us the stats of Rauchbier growth, success, and sales. Bart, welcome back to the show, and I'm eager to hear how Rauchbier has done. Please give us the cold smoked hard facts.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me as always. Hope you had a good smoky week.
Always.
Yeah, this week I wanted to dive into a new data set that we haven't explored before.
No.
And that's untapped data, which, I think this is a great data set to use here. Rauch being on, the cutting edge of, forward-thinking beer drinkers, similar to, untapped users who are, they're looking to experiment, they're looking to try stuff. So I thought it'd be an interesting place to dig into the data a little bit. And the numbers are good. The first thing looking over the last, 365 days is a share of total check-ins. Rauch and smoke, combining those, have grown as a percentage of check-ins. So I think we are seeing some growth. At least, this isn't always a representative data set. These untapped drinkers are going to be a little bit different, but amongst those cutting edge of people who know their great beer, we're seeing growth in these styles, and I think that points to some of the great innovations we're seeing in the market.
I hadn't thought about Untapped as a resource, and I imagine it just has to be straight 5 bottle caps across the board for every single Rauchbier.
I was shocked that it wasn't. The average style rating's about 3.7. So
blasphemy.
Well, I mean, it just shows the discerning customers out there. I mean, while all smoke beers are going to be beautiful, some people are nailing it a little bit more than others. We can get into that in a second. Kind of
please.
The most checked in people, but we'll see if that starts moving over the next year as people continue to raise their game. 2 other data points I wanted to pull from this were time of year, so seasonality, which I don't know that we've ever talked about before, but
I don't think we have.
I mean, there's check-ins all year, right? There's never a bad day to have one of these beers, but one thing that I found interesting is how important the October, November, December period is for these in terms of check-ins. People sitting by that holiday fire, maybe wanting to pair that with some smoky goodness. And I think what I see when I look at this data is an opportunity. How can we extend that to campfires in the summer, to spring and fall season, and how can brewers use this as an opportunity to not just make these late fall, winter seasonal beers, but all year beers that really drive volume for their breweries.
Well, I will point out that Dovetail has announced that every month is now National Rauchbier Month, and I really think it's something that we all need to get behind.
Yeah, it's smart. It's the kind of marketing that capitalizes on what we're seeing in the data and sees the opportunity that's out there. One other data point that you can pull from this is you can look at geography, which is a little bit different. So if we compare it to something like IPA and we look at the untapped check-ins there, and then we look at smoke beer, one thing that jumped out to me is popularity in the upper Midwest. So you really see in metro areas, both Chicago and Minneapolis move up the list a little bit. And I wonder too if that suggests opportunity not only in those geographic regions, but in tying these beers to theme nights. You get your Chicago enthusiasts in with a Chicago hot dog food pairing, and that allows you to sell some more Rauch, some more smoked porter, whatever it is that you have on your menu at your tap room. So that was an insight I thought I wanted to share with all the tap rooms and brew pubs out there. Maybe get those Midwest expats missing home, give them some smoky beers, get them into the tap room.
The thing that I've come to rely on and completely understand is that when you offer a call to action, people stand up to it.
Well, I try not to, give too much advice to brewers. Brewers know their own business models. I try to give them the data points, but this is where the data points. So, you see a data point here, and there's great marketing minds out there that I'm sure that will figure out other ways to spin this. But the Midwesterners clearly like their Rauch. So, you're in Florida, you got all the snowbirds there in the winter, maybe bring them in with some smoky beers.
That's right. Move the smoke belt down a little bit south. I like it.
Yeah. And then last data point, I try to stay away from individual breweries, but this data set, breaks out some of the top breweries and beers. And, some of them are the classics, the imports, which, by the way, we did see a slight shift in check-ins toward domestic in the past year. So domestic, smoke producers taking a little bit of check-in share, maybe not necessarily sales share, but check-in share from imports. But the imports are, high in the check-ins. We also, and we saw some domestic ones that have long been in this space, Alaskan Brewing. You see, breweries like Dovetail, popping up in the top of these lists. One I wanted to call out, though, that's really moved up the list and popped in the last 365 is Brewery Omegang.
Really?
Not a brewery. Yeah, not a brewery we often associate. We think of them with Belgian beers.
Yeah.
Seeing a lot of success. They've got I looked it up. They got a barrel-aged smoked porter. And one of the highest checked in smoke beers in the past year. So just a sign to all the breweries out there. Yeah, maybe you make IPAs, maybe you make, Belgian beers, whatever it is, there's opportunity here in smoke. And the check-ins for Brewery Omegang in the past year really, really proved that.
Wow. 3 philosophers hitting that Rauch malt.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Philosophers like smoked things. So, it makes sense.
Yeah. Expand your mind. Let it wander a bit. I dig it. Well, that's helpful to know from the bottle cap site, that all of that data is there and that people are embracing Rauchbier in the way that they should be. Clearly some more work to do, but this is a great a great start.
Yeah. And I brought one other item to discuss with you, which
Please.
I don't think we've talked about, but as an analyst, I really try to stay on the cutting edge of tools and techniques. And one which is taking the world by storm right now is AI.
Yes.
And Chat GPT. So, as I think about the market, I'm trying to use this as a tool more and more. And so I fed some queries into Chat GPT about what the market for Rauch, what the market for smoked beers looks like in the US and what it might look like in the coming year. And, if we've got a few more minutes, I thought it was interesting to pull out a few quotes from that.
I would love to know what our future computer overlords have to think about Rauchbier.
Yeah, and some of the data maybe is a little bit out of date. I mean, some of, it calls it a relatively niche style. As we know, growing in popularity, a lot of the data was trained on is old, so makes sense. But I thought some of its predictions, really resonated with me. So ChatGPT always tries to couch its predictions, difficult to make, blah, 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 not important. But it really focuses in on how craft beer consumers are looking for unique and distinct flavors. So just reading this quote, consumers will continue to seek out unique and distinct flavors. This could bode well for Rauch beer's popularity in the coming year. So straight from the AI, straight from, somebody who's agnostic about the market and is just reading what's out there on the internet, one data point suggesting growth around unique, standing out, which is really important in today's market. So, I thought that was interesting. It also points to dedicated following. So one of the other queries pointed out there's still a dedicated following of beer enthusiasts who appreciate the unique flavors and aroma that these beers offer. And, in a world where it's getting harder and harder to stand out, it's a competitive market. I think ChatGPT is onto something here, that this is a core market that really fiercely loves these beers. And so, as you look to stand out in the marketplace, that's another thing that I pulled from some of my ChatGPT queries that I thought was interesting.
Wow, that's great. I love that AI is thinking about this and giving us a direction.
And for the brewers listening too, another tool in your toolkit. Maybe you're unsure, which smoked beer, what styles work well. Great question for ChatGPT. Or how am I going to market these smoked beers differently? That's a great place to start as you kick off your smoke program at your brewery.
We're also seeing a lot of breweries these days, and this is for real, using these types of programs to create actual beer recipes. So if you've been unsure about what Rauch beer is going to be right for your brewery, that's how you can get some answers, get some results.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, this is an iterative process. These tools are great if you ask follow-up queries. So whenever you ask ChatGPT a recipe, don't be afraid to follow up the query of, all right, give me that recipe again, now with 5% smoke malt.
Perfect. Anything else, Bart, or we just covered a lot in a short period?
No, I know, every week you ask me what I've been drinking on, and
I have, yeah.
And this week I'm not sure I had, a ton of options here in Colorado. So I wanted to, I try not to get on my soapbox too much, but I see a lot of Colorado breweries chasing trends, a lot of Italian Pilsners coming out right now, which don't get me wrong, I love, but how about a few more smoke beers, Colorado breweries? I'd love to walk into the tap room. This is this spring time of year. You're transitioning from that winter inside fire, the outside summer fire, and I'd love to be sharing a Rauch, a smoke beer along with it.
Yeah, enough with your slow pour pills and your dank IPAs. Let's get some more smoke on tap.
Exactly. I mean, we've got lots of opportunity there, as we just heard from AI. So make it happen.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Bart, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks. Looking forward to it.
And that, my friends in Rauchbier, is the end of our show for this week. Tell me about your favorite Rauchbier by emailing John Hall, that's JOHNHOLL, at allaboutbeer.com. And be sure to visit allaboutbeer.com. A reminder, join the This Week in Rauchbier Facebook group and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at TW Rauchbier. Merch, including glassware, camp Rauchbier mugs, and shirts and hats are available on our website, allaboutbeer.com/merch, and every order helps keep us on the air. Thanks as always for tuning in, for your telegrams of support, and your willingness to indulge on this first day of April 2023. For now, stay safe, look out for one another, and drink that smoke if you got it. Good night.